So as we pick up with Age of Ultron issue number 5, there are a couple things we need to clarify, and the reason why is because this story is going to become relatively confusing and a very fast pace. Now the whole basis for this Age of Ultron story is that the Ultron forces, or I guess these various Ultron robots, have successfully conquered the planet Earth. And at the beginning of this story, we didn't know how. All we had really known is that they had simply just appeared and began destroying various cities. It wasn't until the last issue, or I guess until issues number 3 and 4, that we learned that what appeared to be the case was that the Vision was maybe controlling these robots. But what the Vision had informed us was that Ultron in the future was controlling these robots. And so what had basically taken place is that Ultron had used the Vision as a conduit. And what this means is that the Vision is more or less an open window from the future into the present. And so what Ultron did is, by virtue of manipulating the Vision, he created this window. He established this window that allowed him to speak from the future into his past, which is the current timeline or the current set of circumstances in the Marvel or in this comic. But what we see as the story begins to open up here is that the superheroes are making their way to Nick Fury's bunker, and Tony begins to more or less comment on this. Tony Stark begins to, I guess, comment on their current situation and saying that this is all funny to him in a very dark and humorous kind of way. And the reason why was because when the Vision had first showed up, the Vision was an agent of Ultron, and so they didn't really know if they could trust the Vision or not. But the Vision had turned against Ultron and helped the Avengers defeat Ultron. And so because of this, the Avengers simply just welcomed the Vision in. The Scarlet Witch eventually married the Vision. They had befriended the Vision. And while they had treated the Vision like a human, the fact remained that the Vision was not. The Vision was a robot. And so they didn't understand the technology that was used by Ultron to create the Vision. They really had no understanding of the Vision. And so it could very well be that there was a subroutine implanted in the Vision somewhere along the line that would allow Ultron to alter his programming or to take control of the Vision, that would allow the Vision to become a conduit for Ultron to manipulate the past from the future. But again, Tony Stark's more or less just talking to himself here. He's more or less just providing this commentary for himself. And the reason why is because a lot of the other superheroes are more or less assuming that Tony Stark has kind of lost his mind. And so we see that Captain America is doing what he can to keep everybody's morale up, to keep everybody focused on the current objective, which is to reach Nick Fury's bunker. From here, we see that they've arrived at the bunker. They're currently at its location, but again, they're very wary here. And the reason why they're so wary is because they don't know what's on the other side. They don't know what's within the bunker. It could very well be that Ultron was aware of this bunker because he was in the future, and he had planted a multitude of Ultron robots inside, and that once the door is opened, these robots would come pouring out and annihilate all of these superheroes. And so he initially calls on Emma Frost, but Emma says that the basis, or I guess the fortitude of this compound is such that she can't access it using her telepathy. She doesn't know what's within this bunker. He then calls on Wolverine, and Wolverine says that to him it just smells like a jungle, again commenting that he doesn't know what's on the other side. But what Emma Frost says is that she doesn't like this, that if the bunker was built to keep telepaths out, then that means that it could be that on the other side of this bunker are Ultron robots. We then see that that Captain America calls on Susan Storm and asks Susan Storm if she can use her invisibility to get closer to the entrance without being detected. And when she does, she realizes two things: that one, there's some kind of a key code here. There's some kind of a keypad that has to be used to access this giant door. But the other thing is that this door doesn't necessarily seem to be something that can easily be destroyed, that none of the superheroes, as it appears, would be able to tear this door down. Now, initially, Captain America calls on Spider-Man here and asks Spider-Man if he senses any kind of a danger, but Spider-Man says that his power doesn't work that way, that his spider sense is reactionary, that he himself has to be in danger in order for him to actually, or in order for his spider sense to actually go off. And so he uses the only option left to him, which is Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk. And so what the Red Hulk does is use his vast strength, his incredible strength, to punch down the door, which of course we had previously believed was something that just couldn't be done. But what we see almost immediately after he enters and the other superheroes begin to make their way in is that he is pelted by a barrage of bullets. And the bullets appear to be the kind that may not necessarily kill Thunderbolt Ross, but at the very least are possibly able to injure him. And what we learn is that the person that's shooting Thunderbolt Ross with all these bullets is in fact Nick Fury himself, telling us that Nick Fury has yet again managed to find a way to survive against all odds, because despite the fact that Nick Fury is an established S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, despite the fact that he is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., in the end, Nick Fury is just a man, that he can be killed just like anybody else, and that the Infinity Formula, as we had previously talked about in our Nick Fury videos, only goes as far as enabling him to survive the aspect of dying of old age. And so what Nick Fury says here is that before any of them enter the bunker, that he's going to use some kind of scanning device to make sure that they are in fact who they claim to be, that they're not Ultron robots disguised as humans. And so once he's satisfied with this, once he realizes that all of them are in fact who they claim to be, he allows them into the bunker. And from this point, what Nick Fury tells us is that he's been here for about a week or so, that he's surprised that it took these superheroes to get here this long, but they say that they didn't even know this bunker was here. They were totally unaware of it, that it wasn't until Black Widow and Mark Spector had arrived that they had learned that this bunker was actually in existence. And what Nick Fury says is that he had built this bunker after the Skrull invasion, after the Secret Invasion. Now, the Secret Invasion is again a story we haven't gotten into yet. This was a story that had taken place after Civil War, but the Secret Invasion was a story whereby the Skrulls were invading the planet Earth and replicating various superheroes and humans. And so Nick Fury, knowing that he couldn't really trust anybody, had designed this bunker so that if things went from bad to worse, or if some extreme measure had to be taken, that he would be able to do that. And this extreme measure is actually revealed to us by Tony Stark. What we learn is that this bunker is not just a bunker, that this bunker is more or less Doctor Doom's time platform. Now again, Doctor Doom's time platform is not something that we've talked about yet because we haven't really gotten into Doctor Doom, but the time platform is exactly what it sounds like. It allows individuals to travel through time. And so again, this is where we're going to be seeing these superheroes manipulate the concept of time. What Nick Fury also says is that he believes that Ultron is in the future, which is something that we were already aware of. But what he says is that the idea here, the entire basis of this plan, was something that wasn't necessarily contingent on the superheroes, that he was going to give them a few more days, but that if they didn't show up, that he was going to go on this assignment by himself. And so we see that for the most part, various superheroes begin to chime in and begin to volunteer themselves. Of course, Mark Spector, Moon Knight volunteers along with Black Widow. But we see that Nick Fury's telling them that he's going to need more than two of them, that the plan is to go directly to where Ultron is at, to enter his fortress, and to effectively just annihilate him. But it's not going to be something that can be done with sheer force, that it's going to require both a lot of stealth and a lot of firepower, and that he has a lot of technology to go with it. But Tony Stark is against this. Tony Stark rationalizes that if Ultron is in the future, then this current moment is Ultron's past. And so if this is Ultron's past, then Ultron knows what's going to happen here. He knows what road they're going to take. And so he knows that they're going to attempt to arrive at his fortress and they're going to attempt to destroy him. And so he's going to be prepared for it. But Quicksilver chimes in and says that it's their only real hope. It's the only real opportunity they have. But then Wolverine chimes in, and Wolverine says this is not necessarily the case. Wolverine rationalizes here that Hank Pym was the one who created Ultron, and that they could go back in time if they wanted to, and they could kill Hank Pym before he ever created Ultron. Now, initially, this idea is almost immediately turned down by everyone. Everyone says that this can't be done, that if they went back and killed Hank Pym before he made Ultron, that they would be killing him for something that he hadn't done yet. They'd be killing an innocent man. But not only that, they'd be killing a friend. And so the ramifications of this are something that they can't even begin to understand, that if Hank Pym doesn't exist, what would the future look like? What could possibly happen? Things could turn out almost exactly the way they are now, or they could turn out far darker than they currently are, or they could turn out much better than they are. The fact remains, no one knows what would happen to the entire space-time continuum if this action took place. And so this idea of Wolverine's is almost immediately shot down. This is almost not going to happen. No one is really on the side of this. And so what Nick Fury does is that he says that while everybody else is trying to figure out what they want to do, he unlocks this kind of vault, this more or less weapons cache. And when he does, we see a multitude of arms and armament belonging to various either dead or alive superheroes that may have handed their stuff over to Nick Fury. Of course, we see Magneto's helmet. We see the Mark II from Iron Man's past, which of course was a very primitive Iron Man armor and is one that's not tapped into any kind of network, and so Ultron wouldn't be able to take over this suit. We see, of course, various things like Hawkeye's arrows and so on and so forth. But what's explained to us here is that all these things are going to need to be used. All these things are going to have to be used for the purpose of invading Ultron's fortress. But again, we see that most of these superheroes are a little hesitant here. Most of these superheroes, while they are very interested in defeating Ultron, at the very least have these very subtle, unsure, I guess, motives or feelings. They're a little nervous about what's going to take place, but none of them are really backing out. And so once they realize where the coordinates are going to be, once they realize where it is that they're going to arrive and what it is that they're going to do, most all the superheroes on board. And so what we see is that as a time platform begins to activate, Quicksilver says that if they don't make it back, or I'm sorry, Nick Fury says if they don't make it back, that they're supposed to burn this place down. They're supposed to destroy the entire bunker. And so we see the superheroes begin to I guess, travel into the future by virtue of this platform. But almost immediately after most of the superheroes jump into the future, we see that Wolverine asks Peter Parker if he knows how to manipulate this time platform. And Peter Parker asks him whether or not he wants to chase after him. But what Wolverine says is that he wants to go back into the past, that he wants to go back and he wants to kill Hank Pym. Peter Parker is almost immediately against this, but Wolverine says that in a very interesting kind of situation here, that there really is no hope for the forces of Nick Fury, that the Ultron forces had killed Thor, they had killed the Thing, they'd killed Luke Cage, they'd killed some of the strongest superheroes. And so for those superheroes to attempt to go back, for Red Hulk to go back along with others, that there really wouldn't be anything they could do to stop the forces of Ultron. And so the only real option here is for them to go back into the past and for them to kill Hank Pym. At this point, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.